The shovel hit something that wasn't dirt, something that responded, something that screamed. Samuel's fingers were already raw and bleeding from 3 consecutive hours of digging. His cattle were perishing. His creditors were coming next week. Discovering water on this accursed land his grandfather had left him had become his last hope. The Texas sun pounded with no mercy, and sweat burned in his eyes as he dug through the dry soil. And then the noise, a stifled scream from under the earth. Samuel stopped. The noise froze his blood. He knelt, tearing at the earth with his naked hands. The earth here was loose, only recently turned. Another hand had been at work in this earth before him. His fingers snagged on cloth. Then flesh. Warm flesh. A young girl's face emerged from the shallow trench, dirt knotted in her hair, fear burning in her big brown eyes. She couldn't have been more than 14, wheezing and choking as Samuel cleared the dirt from her nose and mouth. She was alive, barely, but alive. Samuel pulled her from what should have been her tomb, his mind racing. How long had she been buried? Who would do such a thing? The girl trembled violently, dirt slipping from the torn hem of her dress as she tried to sit up. "Easy now," Samuel murmured, steadying her. "You're safe. You're safe now." She gazed at him with hell-worn eyes. Her voice was raw, a mere whisper. They told me I was already dead to them." Samuel felt sick. "Who?" he asked softly. "Who did this to you?" Her response was like a hammer. "My brothers," she said. "My own brothers buried me alive." Samuel gazed at her, speechless. What sort of monsters would be capable of burying their own sister? What sort of hatred was this that fueled such cruelty? But the truth was there in her eyes, haunted, too real to be imagined. She held onto his arm with unexpected strength, her fingernails piercing his skin. "They're returning," she whispered frantically. "They said if I somehow managed to escape, they'd ensure they do it right next time. They'll return by sundown to inspect." Samuel glanced over toward the western hills. The sun was already beginning to set. They had perhaps 2 hours, but it wasn't so much her words that scared him. It was the fear in her voice when she spoke them. This girl knew something, something her own family believed was worth killing for. And now, whether he liked it or not, Samuel was a part of that secret. He assisted her to standing, but her legs gave way beneath her. Whatever she had suffered inside that grave had weakened her, left her dehydrated and barely alive. "Your name is," Samuel said, holding her steady. "Emma," she whispered. "Emma Morrison." Samuel's heart skipped a beat. He recognized that name. The Morrison Ranch lay 15 miles to the north, one of the largest spreads in the county. Jacob Morrison had passed away just 2 months before, leaving 4 kids and a small empire of land and cattle. Samuel had heard rumors around town of inheritance battles. But this wasn't about land. "Why would your brothers do something like this to you?" he asked, setting her down against a nearby boulder. She returned his stare with a haunted serenity. "Because I witnessed them murder our parents." The words hit him like a lightning bolt. Samuel recoiled, not in incredulity, but in the gravity of it. "I thought they passed away in their sleep," he mumbled. "Everybody thinks that," Emma replied, smearing dirt from her face with trembling hands. "The doctor told us their hearts failed, both of them, the same evening. But I couldn't sleep. I went to get water in the kitchen." She stopped, reliving it. "I watched Thomas holding a pillow against Papa's face. Marcus pinned his arms down. James stood watch at the door. When Papa relaxed, they did the same to Mama." Samuel's blood ran cold. 3 brothers killing their parents. And their little sister had witnessed it all. "They saw you?" he asked. "Not that night. But I must have behaved oddly afterwards. Thomas chased me this morning, wanted to know what I knew. I couldn't lie convincingly enough." Her voice broke. So they decided I had to go join Mama and Papa. Samuel glanced back at the shallow grave and then toward the far-off outline of his cabin. These weren't rash murderers. They were clinical. They'd made it seem natural. Had he not found Emma today, nobody would have ever known. "We need to get you to the sheriff," Samuel stated. Emma dug her nails into his arm, fear in her voice. "Number, you don't know. Sheriff Bradley is Thomas's friend. They get into their cups every Friday. He won't believe me. And if he reports what I told him—" She didn't have to complete the sentence. Samuel understood. Up against three mighty ranchers, Emma had nothing but the truth, and truth had nearly killed her already. Samuel made his decision, one that would change it all. "Then we don't go to town. Not yet. You'll stay with me till we sort this out." Emma's eyes flared up for the first glimmer of hope he'd ever seen in her. It disappeared as suddenly as it had appeared. She gestured over his shoulder, shocked. "It's too late," she breathed. "They're already here." Samuel spun around. Three horsemen rode hard, raising dust in the fading light. Even from a distance, their intentions were obvious. The Morrison brothers had arrived to complete the task. Samuel's thoughts reeled. He had perhaps 5 minutes before they reached him. Emma was barely on her feet. "Can you get to the cabin?" he asked. She nodded, white-faced with fear. Samuel picked her up, half carrying her towards the house as his heart slammed in his ears. 3 armed men against a lone rancher and a broken girl. The odds were bleak. "They plotted it for weeks," Emma panted. "I overheard them in the barn. Said Papa was taking too long to die. Said the ranch was losing money and they had to sell in a hurry." Samuel pulled her up the stairs. "But why murder your mother as well?" he asked. "Mama knew Papa's will," Emma breathed angrily. "She'd never let them sell. The will indicates the ranch remains in the family, undivided, until the youngest is 21. Emma regarded him. "That's me. They'd have to wait 7 years more." The pieces fell into place. With their parents dead and Emma buried, the 3 brothers would take it all. No one would suspect them. No one would know. Samuel shoved open the cabin door and invited her in. He slammed the lock shut. On the porch, the riders were near enough now that he could see their faces. 3 men who resembled enough like Emma to verify they were relatives. 3 men who had already murdered and would murder again. "Get in the back room," Samuel commanded. "Don't emerge unless I call you." Emma held on to his arm. "They'll kill you too if you're suspected of knowing." "Then I'd best be careful that they don't suspect." Samuel walked out onto his porch as the riders rode into his yard. The leader, Thomas, if appearances meant anything, dismounted with the confident ease of a man used to getting what he wanted. "Afternoon, Samuel," called Thomas. His voice was friendly, but his eyes were solid ice. "We're seeking our sister. Little Emma took flight this morning. Family dispute. You've seen her?" Samuel made himself stay cool. "Can't say I have. Been keeping busy with my water issue all day." Marcus, the middle brother, indicated the ruffled ground. James indicated the area of upset earth where Samuel had been digging. "That where you've been working?" he asked. "That's right," Samuel replied, keeping his voice steady, hoping to hit a spring. James, the youngest of the 3 brothers, though still far older than Emma, guided his horse around the cabin, eyes sharp. "Funny thing is," he said, "we followed her tracks. They lead right here, to your property." Samuel's blood ran cold. Naturally. The girl had run over open ground. Her prints would have taken them right here. Thomas grinned, but it was more teeth than warmth. "Now, Samuel, I'm going to ask you again," he said, voice low and controlled. "Think real hard about your answer. Have you seen our sister?" The brothers started to fan out, their hands loosely cupped near their gun belts. And Samuel knew in that instant they weren't just searching for Emma. They were here to shut her up. His fingers flinched toward his own revolver, but he stayed his hand. 3-1 wasn't a battle he could fight, not when Emma's survival hung on him, keeping his head and walking away from this instant. "I said so," he repeated, jaw clenched. "I have not seen her." Thomas regarded him with the chill accuracy of someone accustomed to lying and detecting lies in others. "Here's what I believe transpired," he asked at last. "I believe little Emma became disoriented after our family conversation this morning. Perhaps she struck her head, could be lying somewhere out there, walking around, not thinking clearly." The manner in which he uttered family discussions sent shivers down Samuel's spine. They'd attempted to bury their own sister alive, and now they mentioned her as though she were an errant lamb. Marcus urged his horse closer to the porch. Samuel observed his eyes narrow, intent on something in the dust. Prints. Little ones. Too little to be his own. "Thomas," Marcus said softly, "come and see this." Thomas got down and investigated the porch. His smile was gone. His expression grew hard. "Mighty small boots," he muttered. "More or less the size a 14-year-old girl would wear." James came back from making his way around the cabin, something clutched in his hand, a piece of torn cloth. "Found this by the back door," he said, holding it up. "Caught on a splinter. Appears to be from Emma's dress." Samuel's brain struggled to come up with any excuse, any tale that could justify it. But before he could say anything, Thomas drew his gun. "Here's the situation," he explained calmly. "You're going to tell us where Emma is, or we'll rip this place apart, board by board, until we find her." "And if she isn't here?" Samuel questioned. "Then we'll think you assisted her in running," Thomas shrugged. "And we don't allow that sort of meddling with family affairs." The message was clear. Whether she was present or not, they intended to murder him. In the quiet cabin, a gentle creak sounded, a floorboard settling. In the heavy silence, it sounded as loud as a gunshot. All three brothers stood still. "Emma," Thomas said, his sing-song sweet voice calling out. "I know you're in there, honey. Come on out. We just want to talk." Samuel stood in front of the door, holding it behind him with his body. "There's nobody in there." "Then you won't mind if we take a peek," Marcus said, swinging down off his horse. He advanced. "This is my property," Samuel snapped. "You have no right." Marcus pushed him hard, sending him backward. "We got all the right we need." And then Emma did something that turned it all around. The front door creaked open behind Samuel. The girl stepped onto the porch, pale, shaking, smudged with tears, but firm. "Leave him alone," she said, looking at her brothers. "Your fight is with me." Thomas holstered his gun and moved automatically into the mode of concerned big brother. "Emma, sweetie," he said, "you had us absolutely frantic. What in the world are you doing all the way out here?" Emma stood tall, chin raised. "I'm telling the truth about what you did to Mama and Papa." The mask slipped. The face of Thomas turned to stone. "Get her," he commanded. But Emma had one more card up her sleeve. She took a folded piece of paper out of her dress. "I wrote it all down," she declared. "Everything I saw. And I stashed copies where you'll never look." Samuel caught James's hand rising toward his gun. Time ticked slowly. Emma was bluffing, but the brothers did not know this. Thomas glared at the paper in her hand like a panther viewing a trap. Silence filled the air, heavy with tension. "You're lying," Thomas said, but his voice trembled. Emma smoothed out the paper with steady fingers. "I wrote down all the details," she informed him. "The way Marcus kept Papa's arms pinned while you suffocated him with a pillow. The way he struggled for nearly 2 minutes until he ceased to move. The way Mama woke up when she heard the commotion, and the way James pinned her down while you killed her too." James went white, his face draining of color. "I wrote down the times," Emma went on. I wrote down what you said next, about how you vowed to wait 2 months before saying they died peacefully, so no one would suspect a thing. Marcus sprang forward. Give me that. Emma backed away, the paper hugged to her breast. Touch me, she threatened, and everyone in 3 counties will know what you did. Thomas's voice was strained. Where are the copies? Emma's sour smile was the only tool she possessed. Safe. And in case something does happen to me, they'll go directly to the territorial marshal in Austin. Samuel could read it in Thomas's eyes. He trusted her. Every word. Then James made his critical error. We can't let her get out alive, he said, his voice desperate. Copies or no copies, she's the only witness. Put that away, Thomas growled. But it was too late. The scheme had fallen apart. Emma made a bold move forward. You kill us here, she said, and those copies go to the marshal tomorrow morning. I told someone exactly where to find them if I don't come back. Who? Marcus bellowed. Emma didn't flinch. Mrs. Henderson, at the general store. I gave her a sealed envelope this morning, told her if I wasn't back by sundown to take it straight to the law. Samuel's heart leaped with a weird combination of fear and pride. Emma was bluffing, but executing it so flawlessly even he began to have doubts. And Mrs. Henderson, she was the county's most trusted woman. If she trusted Emma, the whole town would. Thomas was considering it all. Risks, rewards, and consequences. Even if you do make it into town, he told her slowly, who's going to listen to a 14-year-old girl against 3 respected ranchers? Mrs. Henderson will, Emma retorted, especially when I explained to her how you attempted to bury me alive this afternoon. Then Samuel saw something that chilled him more than anything so far. Thomas smiled again, but this time it was the cold, calculating smile of a man who had just solved a better solution. You're right, he stated smoothly. We can't kill you here. He glanced at his brothers, back at Emma. We're all going to take a nice ride into town, and when we get there, you're going to tell Mrs. Henderson that you made a mistake, that you were upset, that your imagination got the better of you. Samuel's blood ran cold. He knew the actual plan. They wouldn't murder Emma here. They'd take her on the 15-mile ride to town, and she'd never arrive. A mistake, a slip off her horse, wild beasts, no witnesses, and Samuel, he wouldn't survive either. He'd already been forced to witness too much. Nobody's going anywhere, Samuel said, standing in front of Emma again. Thomas's laugh was low, soft, and lethal. You think you have a choice in this? Thomas sneered. Samuel replied quietly, his hand wandering to his holster. This is Texas. A man has the right to defend himself, and anyone in his house. 3 against 1, Marcus drawled, moving his horse closer. You confident of those odds? Samuel's mouth fell open to answer, but Emma caught at his sleeve. Wait, she whispered. Listen. Samuel listened first to only wind and restless horses. Then he heard hoofbeats, far away but rapidly approaching. Thomas heard them also. Hope flared in his eyes as he faced the direction of the sound. Calling for company, he said to Samuel. Could be, Samuel shrugged. This trail goes right into town. The hoofbeats drew closer until 2 riders came careening into sight. Hope began to flame in Samuel's heart when he saw it was Deputy Marshal Pete Crawford. Thomas stepped forward, projecting his voice to reach the lawman. Emma, thank heaven you're safe. This man kindly took you in after you became lost. He reverted to the brother, worried for her safety, sorrow in every phrase. We've been looking everywhere since dawn, he explained to Crawford, after she strayed off, devastated over our parents' deaths. Emma attempted to speak, but Thomas shut her up with a killing look. Deputy Crawford drew in, badge reflecting the light of day's end. All right here, Thomas sent him a professional smile. Just a family misunderstanding, Deputy. Mr. Samuel was kind enough to assist. Crawford's gaze rested on Emma's ripped dress, the dirt in her hair. That's so, miss. The yard fell silent. Samuel could sense Emma's heart pounding against his arm. How she answered would mean life or death. Emma started, trembling voice. Thomas's smile grew tight, hand creeping toward his gun. I have to tell you something, she went on more firmly, about what really happened to my parents. Thomas moved toward her. Emma's still agitated, Deputy. Let her talk, Crawford commanded, fingers on his own revolver. Marcus flailed in panic. Steel glinted as he drew, but Crawford was quicker. One shot rang out across the prairie. Marcus spun from his saddle, clutching a bleeding shoulder. Nobody move, Crawford shouted, turning to cover Thomas as his partner aimed a gun at James. James took off, his horse charging directly at Emma, determined to grab her. Samuel attacked, pulling her down as the horse galloped by. Thomas, noticing his plan disintegrating, yelled, Deputy, they're lying. My sister's been kidnapped. Then why'd your brother draw on me instead of calling for assistance? Crawford retorted. Emma scrambled upright, dirt streaking her dress but her voice ringing clear. Because they murdered my parents 2 months ago, and today they tried to bury me alive. She thrust the folded paper high. It's all here. Every detail. Crawford's partner tied the wounded Marcus, gun never leaving James. Thomas sat frozen in his saddle, realizing the noose tightening. That's a grave charge, Crawford said quietly. You have proof. I saw it, Emma said, pointing to the disturbed earth by Samuel's digging pit. And they shoved me in that hole to keep me quiet. If Mr. Samuel hadn't been searching for water, I'd be dead. Crawford dismounted, studied the shallow grave, the loose soil, the claw marks, the scrap of Emma's dress still snagged on a rock. His face hardened. Sweet mercy, he muttered. They really did. Thomas clung to one last bluff. She's confused. Grief does terrible things. Grief doesn't put a girl in the ground, Crawford snapped. The next hour blurred. More deputies arrived. Marcus's wound was dressed before chains closed around all 3 brothers. As the prison wagon rumbled off toward town, the sun dipped below the Texas horizon. Emma stood beside Samuel, watching justice roll away. What happens to me now? She asked softly. Samuel looked down at the brave girl who had survived the unimaginable. Well, he said, voice gentle, this ranch could use a hand, and I've always wanted a daughter. Tears glistened in Emma's eyes, but for the first time they were hope. Tears. Samuel rubbed her shoulder. The Morrison spread will be sold to pay debts and support the victims. Lots left over to rehabilitate this place and provide you with an education you deserve. Emma smiled through the tears. I'd like that. They walked in the direction of the cabin, side by side, under the open Texas sky. Samuel hadn't discovered water that day, but he had discovered something even more valuable, family. And Emma had gained not only justice, but a place to call home. Thank you for watching. If you found this story compelling, please consider liking the video, subscribing to the channel, and sharing it with others who appreciate powerful, character-driven storytelling.